All right, welcome everybody. Let's do lesson number 3 together. Here it states, consider the equation 3x plus 4 equals 8x minus 16. Solve for x using the given starting point. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this equation over here and we're going to solve it in 4 different ways. So let's start off with one way. Let's actually write out the equation over here. So if I have 3x plus 4 equals 8x minus 16, what is it asking us to do? The first way, it's asking us, let's try and subtract 3x on both sides, right? So if we subtract 3x on both sides, it'll first look like this. Notice that when we talk about the side, we have the equation here, right? So we have the left side and the right side. So we're going to subtract 3x on both sides. So notice what happens here. You have 3x minus 3x. So this is 0, or we can just cancel it, okay? Then we just have the positive 4, we bring it down, equals 8 minus 3 is just 5x minus 16, okay? And then we have to continue forward, right? Like, how would you continue? What would be your next move solving this equation, right? What would you do? Why don't you try and pause the video and think what you would do, right? Now, notice that you want the x by itself, so to get it by itself, let's add 16 on both sides, right? So we're going to do the inverse operation of this negative 16, and notice that here we're going to have 4 plus 16 is 20, and this equals 5x, right? And then what would be the next and final move to finish up this problem? We want to get the x by itself, so let's divide both sides by 5. Let's see, by 5. Notice what is 20 divided by 5? It's 4. And 5x divided by 5, these 5's cancel out, so you're just left with x. So notice that your value of x is just equal to 4, right? And that was the idea on how we solved this equation, by the first move being subtract 3x on both sides. But what if we were to take the same problem, right? So if we have that 3x plus 4 equals 8x minus 16, and instead of subtracting 3x like we did last time as the first move, what if we subtracted 4 from both sides first? Notice when we subtract 4 on both sides, notice how I'm consistent, right? Like, let me zoom in a little bit more. Notice how I'm consistent, that I put the negative 4 under the constant, right? Under this 16 has no variable. I wouldn't put the minus 4 under the 8x. So what would happen here? You have 3x equals 8x minus 20. Now the question I have is, when we solve this problem, are we going to get the same solution, that x equals 4, or are we going to get a different answer? What do you think would happen, right? So how would you continue with this one over here? How would you get x by itself? What would be the next move? Here, you would have to subtract 8x on both sides, okay? That would be the next move, because you want to get an x up by itself on one side. So here, now you have 3 minus 8, that is negative 5x, equals negative 20. And now, what's your final move to get x by itself? Notice we're going to divide both sides by minus 5 and minus 5. Okay? And now here, x is equal to, this negative 5 divided by negative 5 is positive 1, or positive 1x. And negative 20 divided by negative 5 is 4. So notice we got the same result. It doesn't matter, if they're switched on one side or the other. And that's what I'd like you to do for the other side. For these two over here. Notice that when you solve this type of equation over here, and you could start any way. Notice you could subtract 3x on both sides, which I asked you to do here. You could subtract 4 on both sides, which we did here. What else could you do? You could subtract 8x on both sides. So if I have 3x plus 4 equals 8x minus 16, let's start by subtracting 8x on both sides. What I want you to do is pause the video and try and complete this on your own, okay? Try and take a chance, right? So here, what would be the first move? I subtract 8x, subtract 8x, okay? And now here, 3 minus 8 is negative 5x plus 4 equals, this cancels, minus 16. Then what would you do, right? Here, we want to get this x by itself. How do we get it by itself? We're going to subtract 4 on both sides. And now we have negative 5x equals negative 20. And then what's the final move over here? You're going to divide both sides by negative 5. And notice how you still get x equals 4 over here. So it doesn't matter how you start the problem. How you want to start the problem is your flavor or your taste, right? Final way, try and do the same problem, but now you're going to add 16 on both sides, okay? And I'll leave this for you. Now, for the next following questions, what I'd like you to do is try and solve these equations by yourself, okay? Try and isolate the variable, right? So pause the video and try and go for it. If you want to see how it's done, here notice that we have, let me zoom in a little bit. Let me fix this resolution. Okay, so notice how we have negative 16 minus 6v is equal to negative 2 times this 8v minus 7. So can we do anything over here? No, we're just gonna leave it as it is. Okay, but what could you do over here? We could distribute this negative 2 to both of them. So notice, what is negative 2 times 8v? It's negative 16v. And what is negative 2 times negative 7? That's positive 14. Okay? And then how would you continue forward, right? What would be your next move once you get to this point? There's more than one way of solving it. Like, notice how, what could you do? You could add 16 on both sides. You could add 6v on both sides. You could add 16v on both sides, or you can subtract 14 on both sides. It doesn't matter which way you start, just like what we did over here, where we had 4 different possibilities of solving this equation when you got to this point. So what would I like to do? Let's see. The easiest that I'm thinking right now is, let's see. Let me get my pen. What I would do is I would add 16 on both sides because I like to deal with positive numbers. That's just me, right? So notice that what would happen if I added 16 on both sides? This cancels. So you're left with negative 6v equals negative 16v. And now what is 14 plus 16? That's just 30. So notice how I have a positive number here, and I just enjoy working with positive numbers. So here, what would be the next move? Try and pause the video and try and do it by yourself. But you would add 16v on both sides. And then here, we would have, this would be 10v equals, this cancels 30. And then once you get to this point that 10v equals 30, what do? You just divide both sides by 10. And now you have v is equal to 3. And that's it. We're done with this equation. What I'd like you to do is try and do the rest of these questions by yourself, right? And I will try and go over them in a separate video, right? And for the next part, here, a little homework for you. This is from lesson number 2. This is from what we did today. And for this question, for these questions over here, if you look at this page over here, it says, let A equal this, let B equal this, and let C equal this. Now it's saying calculate the following. So how would you actually solve something like this? It's saying, what is A plus B? Well, what is A? Your A is parentheses z squared plus 2z minus 1 plus, what is your B? Your B is z plus 2. And that's all you have to do is try and substitute these values of A, B, and C into the equations. I'm sorry, not the equations, into the algebraic expressions and try and simplify them. So how would you simplify something like this? Notice that this just stays as z squared plus 2z minus 1 plus z plus 2. Now here we just combine the like terms. What are the like terms? Notice that this you can't combine with anything. And then this 2z plus z is 3z. And this -1 and +2 are also like terms. What is -1 plus 2? It's +1. And that's it. Right. Try and do these questions on your own, and we'll go over them in a separate video for next week. Okay? I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you.